You know, speaking of the mob, did you see the hello, Pat? Welcome to the program. Hello, Jason. Welcome to the program.
Welcome.
Did you guys see the Shah's son making his little speech about how people need to stand up and yeah. I think he might be the Fredo of world leaders. He apparently has never done anything. He has not ever organized any serious movements for the and. If there is a regime change, can we not get involved? And especially if we're like, you know what, we should send the Shah's family back. That caused the problem the first time. Yeah. We might not want to do that. What is the big update today, Jason? Where are we standing today on things?
With bated breath to see what unconditional surrender means, I believe. Beyond that, it's just strikes back and forth. It's same thing for the last couple of days.
So when the president said yesterday, we demand unconditional surrender, was that like the royal we? Who is we? We and Israel now? We're demanding a regime change?
Sounds like it. You know what, Glenn, what the funniest thing coming out of this is the Twitter accounts from the Iranian regime. They've apparently reincarnated Baghdad Bob. Apparently.
Yeah, I saw some of this stuff.
This just in, we just shot down 34 advanced aerial, F-22s.
They tweeted that they have complete control of the skies of Israel. You don't have control of the room that you're in. You don't have we control the airspace. Well, not the airspace directly over me or our country, but we have control of airspace someplace. No, you really don't. You really don't. Now, Axios is. I don't know what to believe anymore because I don't know what propaganda is, and I just don't know. Two Israeli officials, according to Axios, claim that Trump and his aides were only pretending to oppose the Israeli attack in public, that he didn't express opposition in private. We had a clear U.S. green light, one claimed. The goal, they say, was to convince Iran that no attack was imminent and make sure Iranians on Israelis' target list wouldn't move to new locations. Netanyahu's aides even briefed Israeli reporters that Trump had tried to put the brakes on the Israeli strike in a call on Monday, when in reality the call dealt with cooperation ahead of the attack. State of play, the U.S. side has not confirmed any of that. In hours before the strike, the Trump administration distanced itself from the Israeli operations in public statements and private messages to ally. Secretary of State Marco Rubio swiftly stated that Israel's attack was unilateral with no U.S. involvement. Hours later, however, Trump confirmed that he knew the attack was coming, but stressed the U.S. had no military involvement. Okay, I believe. No one on our side. No one in. You think France is going to make a major move without telling us? Well, they might be stupid enough to do it. Do you think any of our major allies are going to make a major move in the country without calling the White House first and just saying, hey, I just want to give you the heads up? And especially if we're the ones at the negotiating table. Of course we knew about it. And of course the president knew that they were going to strike. What is it about people that they don't understand how to negotiate?
Right. This follows perfectly with what Trump has been doing the entire time. He gave a 60-day time frame. Yes, it was a unilateral. I hate these diplomatic, word salads. Of course he knew it was about to happen. Day 61, that's when Trump said, we're not stopping you anymore. It was all part of the negotiation from the very beginning. And yeah, we're not involved except defensively. Nothing has changed, and he's still at the negotiating table.
This is how you negotiate. And you have no, do you remember Barack Obama and I think Joe Biden too saying that'll be a red line. You cross that red line and there'll be hell to pay. And then nothing happened. What do you think Iran learned by that? You don't ever make threats that you're not going. You make promises. You never make threats. Learn that. If you have to negotiate for jobs or anything else, learn that one piece of negotiation. Never make a threat, because if you're called on it, you have to do it. Otherwise, you have no credibility. And besides, it makes it so much easier. You've already made the decision. Look, I'm going to do this. I am willing to do all of this. But if you're not, then I'm going to have to go take another job. And then you're already doing it. And if the negotiations are going poorly, you know, okay, well, I better start going look for a new house or a new job or whatever. You know, it takes all of the pressure off of you. Now, nobody knows how to deal with somebody who's being honest like that, which only gives you extra cards at the table. Now, we have had negotiators. Name the last good negotiator for the United States of America that was a president. I can't. Ronald Reagan? Maybe. Ronald Reagan. Probably. Who was the negotiator for the United States that got good deals for us? In the Cold War, it was Reagan. Other than that. And why was Reagan successful? Because he wasn't bluffing. Well, the Star Wars thing, he was bluffing, but he wasn't bluffing. They knew he was just crazy enough to maybe do it. He was unlike any other president. The same thing here. The president, when he said, you have 60 days, they're not going to believe anything he says if somebody's not dropping bombs on them on day 61. Look, I'm holding them back. This is what he said to them and to us. No, Israel, stop. I don't want you to do this. I'm negotiating. I need 60 days. Don't. Well, 60 days comes up and they start dropping bombs. And everybody acts like they're so surprised. What did we know? When did we know it? I don't know. I think we knew it the day he said 60 days. That's when they knew it. That's when you should have known it. That's when the whole world should have known it. But nobody takes a U.S. president seriously anymore. They don't take anybody seriously anymore. They have people who are saying, I'll burn you in the fires of the Islamic fury. You have people marching in the streets for Sharia law, where we're going to rape and kill all the infidels, and nobody takes those people seriously. But God forbid I say something at all about God, and oh my gosh, we got to shut him down. He's dangerous. What, are you out of your mind? Can we get some perspective here? Ay, ay, ay. But I don't know. I'm not sure that anybody is seeing the full picture. I listen to podcasts. I listen to, TV. I read. I watch, X. I see what people are saying. I have not found anybody that I went, okay, well, they're looking at all sides. Have you? Pat, have you? Have you seen anybody that you're like, okay, I think they're looking at all sides?
No. Yeah. I've seen people breaking down and attacking their own side, and I've seen that on both sides of the aisle. But I haven't seen anybody trying to noodle this thing out with both sides. It's just not happening.
Who's doing that? We're trying to. I mean, I saw Glenn Greenwald and what's his name? Sagar and Jetty, right? Glenn Greenwald was on his podcast, and they were. Let me just read some of the transcript here because it's pretty amazing. They talk about these psyops, and you have the SOT. We'll go ahead and play the SOT here.
But what drives me crazy, and I'm sure it must you as well, is we have the same actors literally the same people who lied us into the war in Iraq now really repeating so many of the same things. We had Ari Fleischer talking about Tucker Carlson, and this is the guy who lied from the White House podium about weapons of mass destruction. Glenn Beck, who was on television talking about how America would be greeted as liberators. He apologized in 2014, but Glenn, he's back now to actually saying, this time around, they're going to be greeted as liberators. Let's take a listen to that. We'll get your reaction.
Said that. Has Israel asked us to fight their war? Answer, No. Is this another Iraq, or is it something entirely different? Well, let me tell you what makes this moment unlike anything else we have faced before. First, this was not a call to war. This was not a land invasion. This is not a campaign to topple a regime and then sit around for 20 years trying to rebuild a culture that doesn't want what we have. Even though Iran, the Iranian people are good people, the Persians are great people, and they do want a life like ours. But this was targeted. This was surgical. This was preemptive. Not against an idea, not against a guess, against the very real, very stated intentions of a regime run by men who do not think like we think, okay? They do not want what we want. We choose life. They literally choose death. These are 12ers. They are followers of a branch of Shiite Islam that believes not just in the return of the messianic figure called the Mahdi, but also that his return can and must be, in their words, hastened or accelerated. And the only way to do that is to, quote, using their words, wash the world in blood. Okay, I think I'm out at that. You know, that's my first stop on the train, and I'm like, I'm going to get off here, please.
They hate our way of life. They choose. I mean, this is 03. This is the same thing. You could probably copy and paste that. And then, except this time they're different because they're Persian, which, by the way, is very racist against Arabs. But it's like, what are we doing here, Glenn?
Also, isn't it kind of ironic that we're supposed to be scared of Iran because they have a messianic religious belief, and like a third of the Congress wants to arm and support Israel no matter what because of their messianic view, that doing so is necessarily for the return of Jesus, who's then going to send all Jews and other unbelievers to hell. But that's a little detail that Israel doesn't mind.
I'm not going to listen to I'm not going to listen to Glenn Greenwald lecture me about my religion, for the love of God. Look. Where did I say we would be greeted as liberators? And by the way, you'll notice that there was an edit in that. Mm-hmm. I was saying there is the possibility. I was not saying we go in. I said there was the possibility that this was different this time because there are people on the ground. But I don't want to go and liberate them. That's not our job. That's not what I want. I don't want to go to war. You know, you so many people put themselves out as the authority. Do not listen to me as the authority. I'm a guy trying to figure this out. I am a guy who I no longer believe the press. I no longer believe the government. I no longer believe in anything but my God. Now, I don't know who Glenn Greenwald's God is, but he believes in something, and maybe his God is just himself. And I don't say this with glee. I like Glenn Greenwald. I respect what Glenn Greenwald has done for journalism. I mean, he was one of the only people that were actually telling us the truth on many subjects. I don't know. Maybe he's right this time. But please do not confuse my belief in Jesus Christ and the Bible with someone who says they're going to wash the world in blood. I don't want to hasten the world into the end times. I don't want that. I would really like that to not be happening when I or my family are anywhere near. It's really bad. Anybody who says, you know what, let's just bring Jesus back. No, that's a bad idea. It's going to happen in his time. Let's leave it alone. Let's not hasten the return of the promised one. And by the way, their promised one is the Mahdi. It is not Jesus Christ. And if you read anything about the 12ers, my gosh, it is like they took the book of Revelations as a joke and said, you know what? Let's make their good guy our bad guy and our good guy their bad guy. It is the exact opposite of the book of Revelation. So they're very clear on which side they're on. And since when do we stop taking people seriously? You know what? Let me ask these two clowns. I'm sorry. Let me ask these two people this question. If Glenn Beck were on today and I said, you know what? We should take all them homosexuals and burn them in the fires of Jesus. Well, let's just clean out because all these homosexuals are just polluting the whole world and they're controlling our media and everything else. We got to kill them all. Would you be on the air telling people this guy is the most dangerous guy on the planet? We have to stop him. You would pull out every unconstitutional way to try to stop me. You know, and you know what? You probably would be right, because that's crazy to think that. It is crazy to think that. But why would you react if someone were saying what I just said and they meant it? They meant it. And they had a long record behind them of killing people all over the world. Wouldn't you be stupid and blind not to at least take that person seriously? You would tell me right now, yes, we would take that seriously, Glenn, and you should. Why won't you do it the other way? Why won't you assign the dangers of somebody who actually believes it and doesn't say it from a pulpit with no backing of anything, when you have them saying it in crowds of millions and they are pumping their poison and their death and they're actually beheading people and throwing gay people off the roofs? Why don't you take them seriously? I don't understand it. It hurts my head. I would really like to understand your logic. All right, back in just a second. There's so much more to cover. First, let me tell you about the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. And yes, I am a proud Christian, very proud to follow Jesus Christ at this time in our history of our world and say, never again. Never again. That doesn't mean I want war in Iran. It means I will stand with the Jewish people for their right to live and survive and to have a homeland. Oh my gosh, the logic is so twisted and dark. Look, I just want to tell you about the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. These are people just like you, just like me, that, all I want to do is support the Jewish people to have a right to live. And that's why the IFCJ will send flak jackets and armored cars. I have just given them one of my armored cars. Excuse me. I have armored cars because, now why am I sounding like RFK for a second here? I've given them one of my armored cars so they can have them to survive. So people who are trying to go in and help can actually get in and help. I would suggest anything you can do to help protect the Jewish people in their homeland. Go to ifcj.org, ifcj.org, or call 888-488-IFCJ. Any gift that you make is welcome. 888-488-IFCJ. Stand with Israel. All right, 10-second station ID. Okay, that went way too long. I'm up against another break. I'm sorry to do that. But we're back in a minute with more.
This is Glenn Beck.
Okay, let me tell you about Good Ranchers. Hypothetical question. You find a magical genie. 3 wishes. What do you wish for? I know. I'd use all wishes to get amazing American meat from Good Ranchers. I got news for you. What a waste of a wish. You know what I mean? You don't need a genie to get great meat from Good Ranchers. You just need to go to their website. Use those wishes for something else. My God, it's a genie. What's wrong with you? Everything they sell is 100% American meat, born, raised, and harvested right here in America. No mystery meat from overseas, no shady labels, just incredibly high-quality, better-tasting meat delivered right to your door. I mean, come on. Why waste all 3 wishes on something you could just order? Use those wishes for something useful like, I don't know, destroying all of your enemies. What, did I say that out loud? Oh, who's my enemies? What is he saying? He's got to be stopped. We should nuke him. Oh, God. All you have to do is go now and subscribe. When you subscribe, you're going to get free meat for life for any Good Ranchers box. Free meat for life from Wagyu burgers, bacon, chicken wings, free hot dog, whatever. Use the promo code Beck at checkout. Go to goodranchers.com. That's goodranchers.com. Promo code Beck.
Check out my show, Packer Unleashed, every weekday, 7 to 9 Eastern, live, or anytime and anywhere you get your podcast.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck Program. I'm glad you're here. You know, I'm really, I just think there's some things that need to be said. You know, people who are scoffing at Christians, you know, because we support Israel or we believe in the return of Jesus. Let me tell you something. I'm proudly one of those people, and you can call me names. I'm not asking you to believe what I believe. I'm not. And I hope you're right, actually. I hope that, you know, we're not at the beginning of what could be a, 10-year or a 40-year struggle with forces of what I believe are real darkness. And if you can't say that Islamists, that the regime of Iran that pumps poison, hatred, and death all around the world, if you can't say that's darkness or evil, we can't have a conversation. I mean, we don't have anything in common. Your God is equivalence, and you're a fool for sticking your head in the sand. But I know who I serve, and I happen to believe in the Bible. There's a scriptural warning. I will bless those who bless Israel. I will curse those who curse Israel. That doesn't mean that you condone everything that Israel does or agree with them. It just means I will not be neutral when someone threatens to wipe the Jewish people off the face of the earth, especially when they say it out loud over and over and over again. Let me ask you this. If you were a neighbor, if you were living in a neighborhood and you had a neighbor who constantly told you over the fence every time you're outside, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to kill all of your family. And then they start killing your animals. And then they start attacking you and throwing rocks at your family when you're out. And then they actually attempt to kill, or they do. They kill and rape one of your children. And no one in your neighborhood backs your self-defense. How long do you live in that neighborhood? Right? What you would do, you would first fight for justice, and then when everybody in your neighborhood would be against you, what would you do? You would move. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't that the point of most in the Middle East? We're going to kill them, or they can just move to a new neighborhood where they won't be welcome there either. This is a game over and over and over again. Why didn't we fight this hard over Kim Jong-un or his dad getting nuclear weapons? Well, for one, he's on the other side of the planet, and he looks like he's always been just a joke of a dictator because he runs a third world country. And while he does horrible things to his people, he doesn't have any ability to do anything. Until he got a nuclear weapon. Well, why didn't we stop him from getting a nuclear weapon? Well, because he wasn't beheading people. He wasn't killing people. He wasn't going over to Japan and saying, I'm going to burn all of you people. I'm going to burn you all in a nuclear holocaust. I'm going to wipe every Japanese person off the map. And let me ask you, if he did say that, and he was running a campaign where he was raping Japanese children, killing them in their own country, bombing them all the time, do you think we would have been neutral on him getting an atomic bomb? There's no way. There's absolutely no way, and no one would have this question. Is it just because it's the Middle East? Because I understand that. I really do understand that. Regime change? Oh, we've seen this movie before. How many times? Oh, they've got weapons of mass destruction. Seen that movie before. And it has never worked out well. I also would like to side with people who are like, how do we afford a war? But here's the one thing that I have learned, and it has served me well. It's why in 1999 I said there will be bodies, buildings, and rubble in the streets of New York City within the next 10 years. And when all is said and done, you will find it has the signature and the name attached to it, Osama bin Laden. And everybody said I was crazy. I wasn't a prophet. It didn't take it. All you have to do is listen to people. Again, you have a neighbor who says, I'm going to kill you and kill all your family. And they say it over and over again. And they're making plans. Do you ignore them? No, you're a moron if you ignore them. No, it's not my neighborhood. It's Iran's neighborhood. But when fanatics tell you what they intend to do, believe them. So I'm not calling for war. And, you know, I heard Tim Dillon in his podcast say, you know, I'm a warmonger and everything else. Tim, I watch your show. Do you ever watch mine? Do you even know who I am, really? Or are you just a guy? Because honestly, and I say this to myself as well, if all you read is social media, you're more dangerous than somebody who doesn't read anything ever. Do you even know who I am? Because I watch your show. I think you're funny. I think you're smart. I don't agree with you on everything, but I don't have to agree with you on everything. But saying that I'm a warmonger and calling for war, I just don't understand that. What I'm calling for is clarity and moral courage for waking up in the entire West before it's too late. And that's not going in and storming and doing a regime change in Iran. That's just recognizing who our enemy is. They have infiltrated and not infiltrated, I can't say, they were welcomed in to every Western country. They are setting every Western country on fire. At some point, if you don't wake up now and say, you know what, we're shipping you back home, you will have a war to end all wars. You got to wake up. And the way to wake up is to at first admit you got a problem. Look, I'm a recovering alcoholic. So there's a couple of things that alcoholics know about themselves. Don't get all high and mighty because you don't know jack. So I'm not coming to you as an expert. I'm coming to you as a guy who just has a little bit of insight, and I'm asking you questions that I think are pretty logical. Now, you're going to have to noodle them yourselves, but at least ask and answer the questions. At least know morally where you stand on things, because the hour is growing late. And if you don't have an opinion on anything, well, what are you here for? What were you born for? You were born just to what? Eat and, watch YouTube videos? What a waste of life that is. Have the moral courage to see the good guy, see the bad guy, and say they're not the same. I'm sorry, they're not the same. I think they crossed the line of not the same when they started raping babies, setting them on fire, raping dead women that they had just killed, and then celebrating and calling their moms and saying, Mama, you won't believe how many people I've just killed. And they sell it. At least the Nazis tried to hide what they did. My gosh, how are you not seeing this? And yes, I do stand with Israel, but not because I think they're perfect. I stand with them because they're under threat. And because when it comes to the Iranian regime, neutrality is not peace. It doesn't mean we fight their wars, but it's not peace to be neutral. It's complicity. But I want to apologize to Glenn Greenwald because I lost. I have a short temper and there's no reason for it. We have to stop. This is so serious. This is so serious. What happens if they get a bomb and they decide to drop a bomb? What happens if they get a bomb and Israel says, this isn't Pakistan. If they get a bomb and they're threatening to drop a bomb, or there's intel that they might smuggle one into Israel. Do we do nothing then? And if they do drop the bomb, does anybody respond? And if their ally is Russia and China, How do you respond without going into full global nuclear war? This is the danger that you face. And I don't know if they're even building one. I mean, I tend to believe Donald Trump, and I tend to believe Tulsi Gabbard. So which one do I believe now? I don't know. But I just love it how the left and how so many now seemingly on the right and the truth tellers are so willing to let religious crazy people. I'm not for religious crazy. You might think I'm a religious crazy people, but I'm not. I'm saying follow Jesus. And Jesus was a peacemaker. Jesus wasn't ever like, go get them. Defend yourself. And that's all I'm saying about Israel. Defend yourself. You have a right to defend yourself. I don't understand why you'll go after anybody you deem as a religious zealot just because they say Jesus, guides them. That Jesus is paramount in their life. I don't know. I can't answer for the 12th century, and I can't answer for people who pervert Christianity. But I can't answer for me. Jesus never tells me to kill. He'll tell me to defend myself, not to kill. And in many cases, even when you're justified to defend yourself, Jesus might say, don't defend yourself. Turn the other cheek. I mean, holy cow. You're worried about people like me, but you're not worried about Islamic extremists in any country where they have rape gangs, where they are grooming children off the street, and every single politician and media person is afraid to point it out. You're afraid. You're cowards. I got news for you. There's a bigger consequence. There's a much bigger consequence than anything any of us will face in this lifetime. And if you don't believe that, that's fine. But you believe in karma? Well, you're going to get the karma. You're going to get what you deserve, one way or another. All right, I want to get off of this negative soapbox. All right, let me tell you about Legacy Box. Ever notice how the older you get, the more value the small moments seem to have? Not the big productions, but the little stuff, the candid stuff. A toddler making a mess in the kitchen, a graduation hug that only lasts long enough just to make that memory. You as a dad, dancing badly in the background of a birthday video. Yesterday, my daughter had a tryout for her last show in Dallas before she moves away from home. And I've tried to get her on the phone. I don't know how many times. All last night. She had the tryout, and then I couldn't get her on the phone, and I just don't know what's going on. It's just weighing on me so much. And I can't, you couldn't be there, but boy, I would love to see the video of her last tryout, at this age. But I have all of the pictures of her at, 4, dressed up as a little polka dot ballerina outfit that is just so cute. And I just love those. Just love those pictures. Here I have a picture of the two of us sitting on my desk. She gave me for Father's Day, the two of us, before we went and saw a show, a Broadway thing, because that's her thing. And those memories, when you get older, you finally get it. This is all that matters. This is all that matters. Don't let them slip through your fingers. Here's what I would like to suggest you do. I want you to go to Legacy Box. Don't let your stories, your family, your children, your children's children, your childhood fade away on outdated formats. Preserve it, share it, pass it on. Go to legacybox.com/records. Get 50% off today. That's legacybox.com/records.
You can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences. There's rough terrain ahead. Saddle up, my friend, and stay tuned. Glenn Beck will be right back.
You know, I've had a lot of wrong opinions, and I have corrected those and apologized for those things that, it turned out to be incorrect. But you really have to judge who is doing that and who is not doing that. Here's a guy who has made mistake after mistake after mistake and has never apologized and has never grown from the experience in his life. Cut 5, please. Here's Lindsey Graham.
Well, I've said from the very beginning, it is in our national security interest to make sure Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. They're an existential threat to our friends in Israel. They really do mean death to Israel, but they also mean death to America. There's no doubt in my mind that if the Ayatollah had a nuclear weapon, he would use it to destroy Israel as part of his religious agenda. His religious agenda includes purifying Islam, going after Sunni Saudi Arabia, destroying the Jewish state, and coming after us because we're infidels. He is literally a religious Nazi. So it is my belief that President Trump understands the threat the Ayatollah presents to us, not just Israel, and that he will, at the end of the day, help Israel finish the job. And that will require, I think, weapons that Israel doesn't possess and maybe joint military operations.
Okay, now here's a guy who just has gotten it wrong every step of the way. But what part of that do you disagree with, other than maybe perhaps the use of our planes to drop a bunker buster bomb?
Not much. I just wish someone else said it and not Lindsey Graham.
Right. Don't like it. He's always wrong about war, and he might be wrong this time. Makes you question. It should make you pause and go, wait a minute. Lindsey Graham is saying many of the same things I'm saying, but this is a guy who has never met a war that he doesn't like. We have to look at nuance.
This is Glenn Beck.